I'd like to welcome you to Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center. This is our Saturday night live on Facebook and also videos on YouTube. My name is Reverend Margaret Palagye, and I am so happy that you have chosen to join with us this evening. We have a lot going on, even though it's on Zoom and it's online, but we're still keeping that community healthy and strong together. So I really appreciate you joining us. All right, so I want to let you know that on Wednesday evenings, we have Healing Wednesday, we call it, where we have our ministers, we have 10 ministers and we have 4 practitioners, and they do a prayer, a group prayer, and we do about a 20-minute meditation, and then about a half hour we just have a community chat where we all get together and check in and just be with each other. It's wonderful. So our website, joyfulgathering.org, has a plethora of information on it. So I would encourage you to go to joyfulgathering.org, see what classes we're offering, and join us. Join us Wednesdays, because we would love to have you. All right, so let's begin this evening by taking that breath of life. Take a deep breath with me. Oh, and just exhale, yes. Let's breathe in peace. And exhale peace. Bringing ourselves in alignment with the divine. So this evening we conclude our series. We've had a whole series, we'll start a new one next week, of what will this year bring. So we've set intentions, we've done visioning, we've done this all through Facebook Live and YouTube. So you can always go on YouTube and check out all of our old videos for the month or for the last 11 years, whatever you choose. But we set an intention the first week in January, and then we added a whole bunch of spiritual tools so that we can really move ahead in ease and with grace. We've discussed a lot of these tools of consciousness, from living our themes and intentions and bringing them into our experiences. So we had this acronym. I love this acronym. L-I-F-E. L, letting go of the past. E, I, imagining a greater life. F, freeing yourself to choose. And E, expressing your divinity. L-I-F-E. Very important, all of those. And then last week we went into the 3 R's. Refocus, first one, your awareness, renew your mind, and recommit your heart. We have to do this daily. So this evening we're going to look at the theme from a broader perspective. This broader question this evening is, what will this year bring into our world? What will this year bring into our world? New beginnings, all kinds of new things are happening. And it feels like an appropriate way to end this series, especially since we are embarking upon the Gandhi/King Season for Nonviolence, which begins on January 30th. And it ends 60 days later. It was initiated in 1998, and it's all situated around the memorial anniversaries of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. So we are moving into how can we live in this world in a manner that really helps the collective to move into a non-violent way of living our lives. And even though we're looking today at the broader, more global question of this year and what it will bring, It still comes down to each and every one of us, each one of us. And I have a wonderful story that illustrates the connection between the individual world and the greater world. The story about a young mother, one Saturday afternoon, trying to work on putting all of her taxes together. She's at her wit's end because her 6-year-old daughter wants all of the attention. Every 5 minutes, the little girl interrupts her with some new demand. Understandably, she's 6 and she's bored. So the mom leafs through a nearby magazine and sees a map of the world. She quickly rips it in pieces and hands it to her 6-year-old as a puzzle to put it all together, thinking this is going to take up a lot of her time in doing this. However, minutes later, the child comes to her with the puzzle all together in minutes. "How in the world did you do that so quickly?" the mother asked. To which the little girl replied, "You see, Mom, on the other side of the map was a picture of a little girl. All I had to do was put her together. When she came together, the whole world came together." When I come together, the whole world comes together. One soul at a time, one conscious decision at a time. How perfect, how perfect. If we desire to live in a nonviolent world this year, we must be nonviolent. And it's not just this year, it's every year. We have been continuously staying in the light. We have been saying this at our many practitioner and minister meetings, in our meditations. No matter what was taking place in the world, what chaos was going on, we remained centered and firm in our belief in peace and in oneness and in holding the light. Now, we want to have a nonviolent world, right? I'm sure none of you that are watching this, think of themselves as a violent person. But I'm sure that many of us had made choices that are less than peaceful, less than loving, less than compassionate, less than kind. Like about 1 million times a day, well, maybe not that many, but a few times a day. So even though we might not admit it, or even might like to think it's not true, every time we do that, every time that we do not act in a compassionate way, we contribute to the collective consciousness of hate, of fear, and of unrest on our planet. And every time we are kind, compassionate, loving, and peaceful, we add to the collective harmony and peace of the world. In every spiritual tradition, it is believed that peace must exist in one's heart before it can exist in the outer world. We must be the peace. There is no other way of saying this over and over again, because we all have to remind ourselves over and over again. Patanjali, the ancient Indian sage, once said, "When a person is established in nonviolence, those in his vicinity cease to feel hostility." We are energy beings, and that energy vibrates exponentially. It just vibrates. And so we must be responsible for our own consciousness, our own thoughts, our own actions. This is how Gandhi lived his life. He opposed injustice, violence, hatred, etc. with one thing: love. He found, if you will, the noble love of Jesus, the noble love of Buddha. Hatred does not cease by hatred. Hatred can only cease by love. And this is truth, spiritual truth spoken here, not something I made up. It's something I must practice daily. It is an unalterable law. You might say, well, that's Gandhi. He was a saint, courageous, loving, compassionate, beyond normal human capabilities. I'm not like him. Well, neither was he, always. He wrote this. He used to be a shy and fearful little boy. He wrote this: I used to be shy and avoided all company. My books and my lessons were my sole companions. I would run home from school. My God, somebody might speak to me. That was my daily habit. Literally ran back because I could not bear to talk to anyone. I was even afraid lest anyone would poke fun at me. Moreover, I was a coward, he said. I used to be haunted by the fear of thieves and ghosts and serpents. I did not dare to stir out of the doors at night. Darkness was a terror to me. It was almost impossible for me to sleep in the dark, as I would imagine ghosts coming from one direction, thieves coming from another, and serpents coming from a third. I could not therefore bear to sleep without a light in the room. And perhaps these fears made him a domineering, sometimes petulant husband. This is more lessons. He was a human. He was a human. He believed that it was his right to impose his will upon his wife. His wife objected to his unilateral approach, whereupon Gandhi became even more adamant about imposing his will upon her. But she had an intuitive grasp of the properties of nonviolent love. And during those tumultuous years of domestic strife, she proved to be Gandhi's equal. Her attitude transformed his relationship with her, and in the process revealed to him the beauty and the power of nonviolent resistance, of nonviolent love. His wife taught him that. And he wrote these words: I learned the lesson of nonviolence from my wife. When I tried to bend her to my will, her determined resistance to my will on one hand, and her quiet submission to the suffering my stupidity involved on the other, ultimately made me ashamed of myself and cured me of my stupidity. In the end, she was my teacher. She was my absolute teacher in nonviolence. He transformed himself, just like we do, every day. That is our goal. It's my intention every day of my life to transform my thinking, transform my behavior, transform. Only you can make the change. Only you can make the world seem right. This is this power in one taking responsibility for their thoughts and their actions and their words. I have to be transformed before the world can be transformed. And how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, the Apostle Paul told us very clearly and very exactly. It's used so many times, and I'm sure you've heard it. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The renewing of your mind. You cannot stay stagnant. It is a daily, really a daily practice to move forward in our lives in peace. And then Paul told us how. Put on the mind that was also in Jesus Christ. And if you have a problem with the word Christ, then put on the mind that was also in Buddha. Or put on the enlightened mind. Enlighten your mind. Become aware that you are a powerful creator. Because that is the essence of God that is within each and every one of us. So if you put on that divine mind that is within you and place that on everything that you see and do, then you will see the world in peace. You can then be the peace. Even in the middle of all of this craziness that's always taken place. This is not new. It's just a different form of chaos. It's still chaos. Your consciousness is needed for the whole. It's needed. Do not think that you are inconsequential. You and your actions are so very important. Someone sent me over the internet this article a while ago, and I want to just read it to you. It was entitled, "Why Ending War Hasn't Worked." And it said this: peace movements have tried 3 different ways for bringing the wars to an end. First was activism, the approach of putting political pressure on governments that wage war. Activism involves protest and public demonstrations, lobbying, political commitment. Almost every war has created a kind of peace movement that's opposed to the war. Why has it failed? Because the protesters are not heard. Because they are worn down by frustrations and resistance. Because they are far outnumbered by the war interests in society. Because their idealism turns to anger and violence. And activism has left us with this ironic picture of outraged peacemakers who wind up contributing to the total sum of violence in the world. So that doesn't work, right? We've seen it over and over again. The second approach is humanitarianism, the approach of helping the victims of war. Bringing relief to these victims is an act of kindness and compassion. I would never say don't do that. It's an act of kindness and compassion, as embodied by the International Red Cross. This effort is ongoing and attracts thousands of volunteers worldwide. Every nation on earth approves of humanitarianism. Why has it failed? Because humanitarians are wildly outnumbered by soldiers and war makers. Because of finances, the International Red Cross annual budget of $1.8 billion is a tiny fraction of the military budgets around the world, because some countries that wage war also conduct humanitarian efforts, keeping the two activities separate, because humanitarians show up at the scene after the war. So these are all good things to do, but they have not worked. Third thing, the final beat, is personal transformation. The approach of ending war one person at a time. This idea suggests that the war begins in each human's heart and can only end there. Why has it seemed to have failed? Because hardly anyone does it. If we all did it, we could contribute to the mass collectiveness of transformation, reaching that tipping point. Because we know that one who is coming from peace and love affects so much more of the energy of the whole of this planet, of this entire world. So let us realize, Ernest Holmes wrote this. He wrote, let us realize, this is important, let us realize that the world is to be healed of war and brought into peace. It won't have been because guns were bigger and better or we had more of them. We need them until it does heal itself. But that will come to pass only because somewhere along the line, the balance of the scales of eternal truth shall fall on the side of peace. Let us, you and me, pray, he wrote, when it comes. Let us make our intellect, our souls, and our will, and our feeling ready to receive it and embrace it even before it comes. Let us, in the stillness of our own soul, go back to that ineffable presence, which is peace, and proclaim it even in the midst of confusion. That peace which is the power at the heart of God, Be ye the change you wish to see in the world. We must take responsibility. It's a choice. It's a choice. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at all, but stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. We can do this. We have been doing this. And good job, everybody that has been doing this with us at Joyful Gathering. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another, to assist some portion of this suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given to us to know which act or by whom which will cause this critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. And it's going to. It is. I truly believe it is. I am forever an optimist anyway, and I truly believe this. It's a good thing to be an optimist. I don't want to be a pessimist. What good is that? That's energy wasted. What is needed for the dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding and adding more and more of the kindness, of the goodness, of taking responsibility continuously. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, the second, or the 100th dark hour. Remember what Margaret Mead said. Never doubt that a small group of committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And I'd like to close this evening. I usually do a separate prayer, but I'd like to read this prayer. It is from the Association for Global New Thought. It's called Agent, A-G-N-T. And they wrote this prayer, and they also created the season of nonviolence. But I'd like to read this prayer to you, okay? So take another deep breath with me. It's a lot of information. Infinite Spirit, I call upon your power, wisdom, and compassion. The call, the power that calls the universe into forms. The wisdom that brings forth order and balance. The compassion that establishes healing, justice, and beloved community. Make me aware of my own prejudices. Shine a light upon any form of violence in thought, word, or deed in which I am engaging. Grow me the seeds of nonviolence. Teach me the ways of peacemaking. Show me daily how I can do my part to fulfill humanity's dream of peace on earth. Through the growing practice of nonviolence, I stand firm in my belief that it is truly possible for all people to live in freedom, justice, and plenty. I pray for divine direction. I commit to doing my part. I know the future of our planet and all people depend upon this great mission. I accept this. I know this. And I embrace this right here and right now in every cell of my being. I allow the fullness and the beauty and the power of the divine mind to fill every cell and every particle of my being, to guide me in ways that I may not know yet, and to allow me and help me be the peace I wish to experience, to help contribute to this global community that I am a part of. I give thanks, such great thanks, for the love that I know is expressing. And I give such thanks for the peace that is taking place within my mind and within your mind. Embrace it, know it, and be it. And so it is, my friends.